Hello and welcome to this video. Over the weekend, a group of protesters in Minnesota marched right into a church during Sunday service, and that act has now drawn a federal investigation from the U.S. Department of Justice. The disruption wasn't just random. It was tied to anger over immigration enforcement and the belief that a local official with immigration and customs enforcement had connections to the church's leadership. In today's video, we break down what happened, why it's significant, and what the Department of Justice says it may do about it. On Sunday, January 18, 2026, a group of anti-ICE protesters entered City's church in St. Paul, Minnesota during a worship service. Footage shared online shows people chanting slogans such as "ICE out" and "Justice for Renee Good" as they move through the sanctuary. Protesters said they believed one of the pastors at the church was also serving in an official capacity with ICE's local field office, a claim that's partly based on matching names, though exact confirmation from church leadership has been limited. The protest comes amid ongoing immigration enforcement tensions in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, including demonstrations sparked by the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent earlier this month. For many of the demonstrators, that shooting, combined with a broader surge of federal immigration agents deployed in the region, has created a potent mix of anger, fear, and activism, leading some to take increasingly dramatic actions to voice their concerns. The U.S. Department of Justice says it is investigating the church disruption to determine whether protesters violated federal laws, including those protecting places of worship and federal civil rights statutes. Justice officials have said they may press charges if laws were broken. Senior DOJ officials, including those from the Civil Rights Division, stated that places of worship are not public protest forums and that interfering with worship services could fall under federal criminal provisions. Attorney General Pam Bondi also commented on social media, warning that violations of federal law would be prosecuted and emphasizing the protection of lawful religious practice. Protest organizers, including leaders from local civil rights groups such as the Racial Justice Network, countered that the protest was a response to perceived abuses by federal immigration agents in the state. They argue that the presence of an ICE official linked to the enforcement surge inside a religious setting raises ethical questions about accountability and transparency. One of the slogans chanted, "Justice for Renee Good," references the community outrage over the recent fatal encounter involving an ICE agent. The Justice Department's decision to investigate highlights the intersection of immigration enforcement, civil rights, and constitutional protections. Police and prosecutors must now determine whether this protest crossed legal boundaries, including trespass, obstruction, or violations of statutes protecting religious worship. At the same time, the situation raises broader questions. Supporters of the protesters may say the action was a form of political speech or direct action arising from deep frustration with federal immigration practices. Critics, including some federal officials, argue that disrupting a service undermines religious freedom and could violate federal laws designed to protect worship spaces. This kind of clash between protest activity and constitutional protections is rarely clear-cut, and legal experts will likely debate where the line should be drawn. Many civil liberties scholars emphasize that peaceful protest is protected, but that desecrating a house of worship or forcibly entering during a service can raise separate legal questions that go beyond First Amendment protections. At the time of production, local authorities and federal prosecutors have begun looking at video evidence, statements from participants, and potential witness accounts to determine whether specific crimes were committed. It's not yet clear whether charges will be filed, but Justice Department officials have said they intend to pursue enforcement actions if federal laws were violated. The protest also feeds into an ongoing national conversation about federal immigration enforcement, including how and where people express their objections and how far civil disobedience can go when it intersects with other fundamental rights. This incident is about more than protest tactics. It touches on questions of religious freedom, civil rights protections, and public reaction to immigration enforcement policies. Understanding all sides of the story, what the protesters intended, what the law protects, and how the federal government responds, helps us see why this event has drawn nationwide attention. If you found this update interesting, please tap like and tell us what you think in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to U.S. Immigration Update for trusted, clear, and timely updates on U.S. immigration policy and news.